We are back on the record. I need a motion to adjourn from executive session.
So moved.
Second.
I need a roll call, please.
Mayor Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
Aye.
Commissioner Homan,
Aye.
Commissioner DeBras.
Aye.
We had a work session scheduled, and we're still going to do that, but I need-
Mayor, I would like to motion to amend the agenda. I would like to add in a short Q&A with the Miami Conservancy District. I had a constituent reach out to me last week asking some questions about the work that they do, and they were kind enough to not only answer those questions, but actually send out a representative to talk to us tonight. So I'd like to have that really quickly if anybody else wouldn't mind.
Miami Conservancy District is.
If we get a second?
A second?
I would second.
I did. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
You are on the agenda, sir.
Thank you.
Hello,
State your name.
my name is Ken Moyer. I'm the treasurer of the Miami Conservancy District.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys having us out tonight. I appreciate the questions from the residents as well. We're trying to be as transparent as possible during this process. For those of you who don't know, I know our general manager made a presentation last month at a commission meeting, but the Miami Conservancy District is responsible for providing flood protection to the communities along the Great Miami River. And so this year, something that's unique is that we're going through what's called a readjustment of benefits, the first time since 2012, similar to how counties do a triennial appraisal of their property values. Conservancy districts are limited by the Ohio Revised Code to do a readjustment of benefits no more often than every 6 years. We were planning to do a readjustment of benefits in 2020 as an update to the 2012 benefits. And at that time, there were a couple counties that appealed to the state of Ohio over the property values. The county auditors had assigned values to their properties, and the state of Ohio during the pandemic saw what the markets were doing, saw that properties were selling for more than the county auditors were valuing the properties at, and the state of Ohio wanted those property values increased even more. So at that time in 2020, the Miami Conservancy District determined that it was probably in our best interest to hold off on the readjustment of benefits at that time so that we weren't going into something that was being litigated and possibly assessing benefits based on numbers that might change after the outcome of a court case. Late last year in 2023, that court case was finally resolved at the state level, and the new property values were assigned by the county auditors, so now we are proceeding with the readjustment of benefits. Currently, property owners are being assessed on their values as of 2012, the last readjustment of benefits.
Yeah, so I had a constituent reach out, and it sounds like they were within the range, and they got readjusted, and they had some questions about it. And so basically their concern was, hey, what is this? Why is this going up so much? There was some concerns about fixed income individuals being unable to meet those or having trouble with that. And so I kind of distilled that out into a few different questions that we sent out to you guys. And I can re-ask those for you now if you'd like to answer them. So just to get an idea of what the Miami Conservancy District is, how is that tax or fee being collected? And it was my understanding that tax isn't the correct word for that. Could you explain that, please?
That's correct. The difference in Ohio, the difference between a tax and an assessment, any entity that applies a special assessment onto a property has a legal obligation to prove that that property owner receives a direct benefit for the assessment that is being placed on their property tax bill. A tax is more of a general tax where everybody benefits from, and it's not necessarily directly tied to their property, even though it's based on their property value. In the Miami Conservancy District's situation, we were formed after the Great Flood of 1913 that came down the Great Miami River. Those properties that flooded during the 1913 flood are the only properties that we are legally permitted to place an assessment on. Because if you did not flood in 1913 without the flood protection system in place, we cannot prove that we're providing a benefit. So that's where it comes into, some people might look online and see a neighbor on their street who's not paying the assessment, and it might be because the flood happened to stop right at the corner of that block. So.
Yeah, And about that legality, there was a question about what level of government do you guys sit at? Because, you know, you're not really at like state, city, or county. Everybody's like, where are you guys at? What authorizes you? What legalizes you putting that assessment on somebody?
Sure. Conservancy districts are governed by the Ohio Revised Code Section 6101. It is a unique form of government not a lot of people have heard about. It is a local form of government. We are governed by what's called a Conservancy court, and that's per the Ohio Revised Code as well. Our Conservancy court consists of one common pleas judge from each county within our boundaries. And then we are also governed by a 3-member board of directors that is more similar to a city commission or a city council that deals in more of the operational level of creating the budget, giving our general manager direction on the day-to-day activities.
For fixed income individuals, are you aware of any programs, or do you guys have any way of mitigating some of that cost for people who maybe they just can't absorb that into their fixed income?
Right. For special assessments, we are not aware of anything like that. I know at the county level, there's different homestead exemptions on general property tax. The reason being is because the assessments, the property owner is receiving a direct benefit. We did an analysis on the properties in the city of Piqua. There's a little over 1,400 parcels that are paying the assessment that flooded in 1913. Over half of those parcels, their new assessment between the maintenance and capital assessment combined will be less than $100 a year. Go up to $250 a year, 80% of the parcels in the city of Piqua will be paying less than $250 a year. We realize that's still a pretty sizable amount, but at the same time, if the flood protection system were not in place, the FEMA takes into account the flood protection system when they're updating their floodplain maps. If the flood protection system were not in place, those floodplain maps would show these parcels as being in a floodplain. So first of all, no economic development would be allowed to exist on those parcels. Second of all, the majority of those property owners would be required by FEMA to purchase flood insurance. So in the scenario of where a property owner may be paying $250 a year on their assessment, the studies we've seen are an average flood insurance policy would cost approximately $900 a year.
So there is a trade-off there where maybe your house just wouldn't even exist, or you'd be paying a much higher rate for flood insurance.
Correct. And even if you were paying flood insurance, you would not be protected. So you would be losing your belongings. You'd be experiencing the flood. And eventually people wouldn't want to live on your property where it stands anyway. So the flood protection system does provide a very good benefit at a lower cost than the flood insurance would cost.
Are these increased costs, are these coming all at once, or are they going to be tapered over time? And is it going to happen this year or next year or the year after?
So we have 2 assessments. They're annual assessments. The first assessment is the maintenance assessment. That has been in place for over 100 years since the Miami Conservancy District was formed. That goes to pay for the daily ongoing operations and maintenance of the flood protection system when our staff is out closing floodgates, out mowing the levees. There's a lot more maintenance than people realize of keeping the turf manicured so that there's not erosion along the levees. You've probably seen groundhogs running out along the levees, and when they burrow their holes in there and the river comes up, the water can get inside those levees.
I've had a lot of talks about those groundhogs.
Exactly. So the maintenance assessment is in effect our general fund. Since we don't have the legal authority to levy a tax, we don't have a general fund like the city or the county has. So our maintenance assessment basically goes to pay for our daily operations. Now, we also have a capital assessment coming on. We previously had a capital assessment that expired in 2022. The difference between the maintenance and the capital is the capital assessment is restricted to only the infrastructure improvements along the dams and levees. I usually equate it to a school district having an operating levy, and then if they want to come and build a new high school, they put a levy on the ballot for that high school, and the residents are a little bit more apt to approve that if they know that money is being restricted to constructing a high school and not going to pay for teacher salaries.
Okay.
So this capital assessment, actually up at Lockington Dam the last 10 years, about 5 years ago, we completed a major rehabilitation project. If you're looking from the north down towards Lockington Dam, the Lockington right wall was finished approximately 4 or 5 years ago, and we're in the final phases of the Lockington left wall. So those have been some pretty significant infrastructure projects.
And just 2 more questions, Mayor. So does this individual city of Piqua, would we have any authority or any way of telling you, no, you can't do this or anything like that?
No, it's
Because you're
not
at the state level, right?
It's actually a regional level, but if individual cities would allow power, then you'd have some cities along the flood protection system opting out, and it just would not work. So it's a regional form of government. As commission members, you can feel comfortable that the residents aren't going to come to you and say, we're the ones putting this up for
Yeah, and
ballot.
just the reason why I asked it, I was asking, hey, is there anything you guys can do about this? And I was like, I don't know if we can or not, but it sounds like there's nothing that.
No, there's not. There is an exception process where people can file an exception similar to a property appeal on your property value. When a benefit is assigned to an individual property owner's property, they can file an exception that then goes to a hearing at the Conservancy court level.
Okay, so if they call the Miami Conservancy District and ask for, sorry, what was the word?
An exception.
An exception?
So, yes, and that period, there's only a 30-day window, and those benefits were filed roughly third week of March. So I think that 30-day window is coming up. But property owners can go out to our website. It's mcdwater.org. So Miami Conservancy District, so mcdwater.org. You can plug in your name, your address, your parcel ID, and it'll bring up what your assessment's going to be, and then also give you instructions if you want to file an exception form. Property owners should be aware that this is not an opportunity to appeal your property value. That was done at the county auditor level.
Yeah.
This is strictly a method to allow you to appeal the benefit that maybe you say your property did not flood in 1913.
And is there, about that value from the county auditor, is that the benefit that you're getting, that you're assessed with, is that proportional to the value of the property?
In some ways.
Okay.
So
Would a different route be to appeal to the county auditor to have your property reassessed in value, and that would then change?
That could, if they get their appeal in by the time our exception deadline happens, we allow them to stipulate that they have an appeal on file, and we will accept whatever the final ruling of that is.
Is it not exception period? Is that every year that the assessment happens, or
No,
is it just the one time
It is
right now?
just during the readjustment of
Oh, okay.
benefits. So the last time it's been done was in 2012, and the next time won't be until the next readjustment of benefits.
Okay, so if you are a citizen out there and you're looking to have it readjusted, it sounds like this is the week to do it. Get out there to the website that you had listed off, and that's all I have.
mcdwater.org.
Yeah, so one thing to follow up in proportion, when you're talking about the property value, there are different factors applied where somebody, if they're looking at a $100,000 house and their neighbor also has a $100,000 house, their assessment may not be the same because there's fairness in the calculation based on how deep the flooding was on each one of the 47,000 parcels in our boundary. So a parcel that had deeper flooding actually pays a higher percentage assessment compared to their property value. And part of that reason was the business owners who were along the river had the higher valued properties. And back after the flood, property owners who lived a few blocks from the river were arguing that you're expecting us to pay the same rate that you do, even though you're benefiting more than us. Yeah. So that's where this very tedious flood factor came in as far as how deep the flooding was. And that's another thing that we can tell residents is in 1913, your property flooded 6.4 feet. We have those records in our system.
Sure.
I think a lot of people enjoy the benefits, and nobody enjoys paying for the benefits, but I appreciate the work you guys are doing. I really appreciate you being prompt with answering the questions and coming out here in person to respond to them. That means a lot. Thank you.
It is great to get some clarity because we've had some other information and just wanted to understand
Sure.
the truth of the matter.
That's what we're here for, to be transparent. We know we're unique, and we've got an excellent working relationship with the city of Piqua. I know we've recently worked on the Lock-and-Ine Park. I know next Friday we have the Great Miami Riverway Summit coming up at the Fort Piqua Plaza, and we're really excited about a lot of the economic development and a lot of the excitement generated by the city of Piqua.
Exactly.
There's an interesting book out, I don't know if you've read it or not. We have it in the library at the Johnson Farm. It's called That Dam Project, and it really details the history of it. And I think 1913 was the flood, but my understanding was it took until almost 1921 before all the lawsuits were settled over the assessment, the area, and all those kind of things. Interesting book if people want the history.
Yeah, definitely. It took a few years to even get Conservancy districts into the state legislature with Colonel Deeds and John Patterson. We do have one of our 3 board of directors who's from Miami County. It's currently Michael Van Haren, but prior to him, it was Bill Lukens and William Hobart before that. But yeah, there's a lot of history involved. Unfortunately, we've lost that generation who suffered through the 1913 flood, so people kind of take the organization for granted. Another resource I might direct residents to on our website is a book called The Flood of Memories. And our 100th anniversary, it's basically a picture book that's a flip book, no real words to it. But on the left page, we took historical pictures during the flood and sent a photographer out to the exact same location 100 years later to show what that property looks like now, and tried to find some of the landmarks in each town. But it's something that really opens the eyes of people who weren't here in 1913 to see, oh wow, the flooding was really this deep in the middle of Piqua. You usually only think about that in places like California, Florida, but it did happen here in the Miami Valley.
So one question real quick.
Yep.
While I have a chance. If someone were to buy one of these lots or one of these properties, so say I bought one and the building that's on it, if I for some reason wanted to tear it down and build something new, and I had the records of how far up the water went in 1913. So if I mitigated that risk, like say by not even having a main floor and you know, basically having an empty space down below up on concrete or pylons or what have you, and built a house up above, could I, as that property owner, come to you and say, well, I've done this, and have mitigated these and present that evidence to you to lower my assessment?
That is an excellent question. One of the other factors in our calculation regarding that flood depth is what's called a tall building formula. Obviously, there's some buildings in every town that are taller than 3 stories. So that flood depth only applies to the first 3 stories of a building, and then floors 4 and above receive a reduced discount of that flood depth factor. In your case, depending how many stories that new building would be, if it were still only going to be 3 stories, that would not reduce the assessment. We also have people say, well, I built up my property on a little mound. We don't track the topography of all 47,000 parcels, because as soon as you build a hill on your property, now you're displacing those floodwaters onto your neighbors and essentially damaging them. But you bring up a point of what would happen if you tear a building down and then rebuild. This readjustment of benefits is not necessarily to always bring in more revenue. It's to redistribute the pieces of the pie, because we are not permitted to go out and capture updated property values in between readjustments. So since 2012, there have been properties that have had buildings built on them that they are still paying an assessment based on a vacant piece of land in 2012. Likewise, if somebody's house burnt down in 2016, their assessment is still based as if the house is still on there in 2012. So part of this readjustment of benefits is starting to make it fair and equitable for these developments that come in to make sure they pay their fair share and maybe alleviate some of the burden on some of the individual property owners if the new business owners are paying their share.
Okay.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you very much. I
Sure.
appreciate your time.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is a work session involving the Piqua Historic Preservation.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor and Commission. I will talk
And
briefly.
your name?
Sorry. I am Kyle Hinkleman, the Community Services Director. Thank
There
you.
you go.
So this evening, I'm going to speak briefly about an effort we are going to, hopefully that's better, that we are working on, which is the Certified Local Government designation through the state of Ohio. So we're going to talk about a couple items pretty quickly, kind of talk about what we have currently, why we're trying to achieve a certified local government, the ordinance and some legislation that is necessary, and then a timeline we're looking at. So to start, what is CLG? we currently have the state currently has language that designates what a CLG is. The need from the city really goes around 3 topics. It will help to protect our historic assets. It creates a process, a transparent process that is easy to follow. And then it also makes grants available to property owners within the district who want to reach out or move forward with some historic preservation on their properties. There are a number of grants that are available through the CLG process. The CLG grant itself, there's actually a grant through the certified local government portion, which is generally a 60-40 match. So it would allow for property owners to be able to apply and be given some funding for certain projects. There's also an 100% match for 3 groups each year. The state designates what they call priorities. And so this year, the 3 priorities are actually not old houses, they're mid-20th century properties. So if there's a property that is mid-20th century, they could potentially get up to 100%. There's also in-state training for historic preservation. So if people are interested within the district of learning more about historic preservation, there's a potential grant available for that. And then there's also the underrepresented groups. So if there is a survey or rehabilitation of properties that can be shown that they pertain to underrepresented groups, there's also funding available in the CLG grant to allow further understanding. And the second piece of this is that the state of Ohio allows CLGs to designate landmarks, and those properties that are designated as landmarks would be able to be considered for the Ohio Historic Preservation Tax Credit, which is a program the state of Ohio has that allows for substantial funding or potential funding for some developments. So those 2 options, CLG opens up to the city and to our property owners within these districts. The Historic Preservation Tax Credit is a program they do twice a year, and it is used in every city to allow growth in the historic preservation development. So a building, as you can imagine, that is very old, needs a lot of work, needs that love of the 21st century, but the effort to make it feel as though it is original, the cost of that is substantial. And so these programs help facilitate some of the funding that is necessary to achieve that redevelopment in the appropriate manner. So just to give you an idea of other communities that have gone through this process, we are not the only one. There's actually a couple hundred in Ohio. The closest one to us is Tip City. They did it early 2000s. The city of Dayton, Van Wert, Lima, Springboro. There's a whole list there of different communities that have gone through this for different reasons. So to explain why we are asking for this legislation or what this potential legislation will be, last year in June, the city adopted our new code Piqua, our development code, and within that there are quite a number of chapters and sections that relate to our historic preservation efforts in the city. Unfortunately, the State Historic Preservation Office, we attempted to try to see if we could utilize our existing language, and they felt that there was some portions that were lacking and felt that we should go forward with a separate ordinance. And our language did not cover all that was necessary to be designated under the CLG standards. So they have a checklist. We sent the checklist to them on what we felt we met. They sent back what they felt we didn't, and that is really how we came forward with what this ordinance is going to be. Just so you're aware, as I know there are people who are very interested, the city does have 2 designations for districts, historic districts. The Piqua Caldwell Historic District is obviously the most prominent. It is actually registered on the National Register of Historic Places. And then we also have the Downtown District, which is not a National Register of Historic Place, but it was designated, and it did have a separate board that existed up until 2016 when that was integrated into our Planning Commission for future decisions. So an interesting piece, if you are a history buff in the city of Piqua, again, we do have, within our bounds, we have 5 buildings that are actually within the National Register of Historic Places, and we have one district, the Piqua Caldwell Historic District. So nothing changes on these 6 properties. The regulations that exist, the state Historic Preservation Office's review, all of those components when you're on the National Register of Historic Places does not change. This legislation is an addition to, so it allows the city to designate additional additional places that can count as a landmark within our designation. So it will not put them on the National Register of Historic Places, it will put it on our local register, but that will again allow the property owner, once landmarked, to go forward with different grant opportunities. One of the components of our current code, which has to be dealt with, is our certificate of appropriateness. So you will likely recall that anytime someone asks to change things within our district, our historic district currently, they're obligated to get a certificate of appropriateness under our development code. All of that existing language would have to be moved to a separate ordinance, which again we will show you here in a moment, and it would have to be removed from our development code and give that power, that approval power of the certificate of appropriateness to this separate board. So what do you have to do to be approved? Again, there's a checklist. They review that checklist. They make sure that the ordinances are in place, and there's a couple other documents. And then once they are approved, you are then authorized to create the board and create landmarks within our community. So there's a number of items, as I noted, that are missing. We are working through each one of those and believe that after conversations with SHPO that the deficiencies have been corrected and we can move forward with the language that we have. So that is why we are looking to propose a new ordinance, Chapter 99, the Piqua Historical Preservation Ordinance. That ordinance would cover all of the items that I noted in that checklist from the State Historic Preservation Office. Really, it would focus on those 4 items. It creates the Piqua Historic District, which would have 2 sub-districts, one of which is the Caldwell Historic District, and the other of which is the Downtown Historic District. It's not a real district per se, it's a boundary, but it includes 2 districts. It would define a process for local landmark designations. So as I noted again, this ordinance would provide a process, a clear, transparent process for someone who wishes to be landmarked, and then the obligations that are put upon them if they determine they would like to be landmarked. It opens them up, obviously, for grant opportunities, but it also closes them down for certain regulations, and it does put more onerous on them to make sure that they are meeting certain guidelines. It creates a separate board, the City Historic Review Commission, which would then be the body that would landmark these properties, as well as approve the certificates of appropriateness. And then we would need to remove the existing code language from the development code to make it clear and clean for someone applying. So this just goes through a couple pieces with the language. I won't go into each piece of this, but this is how we are addressing all of SHPO's comments. We have to go through each individual section in the code, and then we have to state how we're meeting their objectives. This is impossible to see, I apologize, but those are our 2 districts. The question would be, are there modifications to the districts that would be considered? If there is, now would be the time to have that conversation. We are asking likely to modify the boundary of the Downtown Historic District to not include the Caldwell Historic District, as there is an overlap, which complicates things. So we would clean that boundary up and then potentially add a couple parcels to allow for the potential redevelopment opportunities if someone so chose. So again, then we're making a number of changes. The number one being that we would create the board. So in Chapter 32, we have the City Historic Review Commission being created. That would, again, create the City Historic Review Commission, and it would have different structure, organization. It would be a 5-member board that would be appointed by the commission, as our Planning Commission, as our BZA are, and all our other boards. There are requirements to live in the city. there are requirements or there are goals to have more knowledge on this board. So someone that has historic preservation knowledge, has architectural knowledge or engineering knowledge, something that they can share to make sure that they're, when they are making the determination, that they're doing it from a place of experience or expertise. And then again, their powers would be designated in Chapter 99. Again, I'm not going to go through each one, but we are then obligated to make some changes within our development code to remove the certificate of the COA process, to remove the special use permits. Some of those things that are designated under our historic review within our code would all get moved over to this new section. So what is the timeline that we're looking at? It's quicker now that our council or our commission meeting got moved from Tuesday to today. We are going to bring this forward to Planning Commission tomorrow at our monthly Planning Commission meeting. We're going to have that discussion and then hopefully bring that back to City Commission next Tuesday for our first discussion on this. Obviously, we can move the timeline at any level that we'd like. We are really working around the end of the timeline, which the state of Ohio has 2 application deadlines. They have August and they have April. So we want to have this in place that if there is a property owner that wants to get on that August deadline, that they have the opportunity to do that. If they don't make it, they have to wait till April. And again, that's not the end of the world, but we certainly would like to allow people to move forward if that's something they're interested in doing. So we believe the timeline that we've proposed, which gets this in place and formalized by the end of May, and then allows the State Historic Preservation Office roughly 4 weeks to review, approve, and then would put the actual designation. If somebody wanted to have a designation, they could come in July, request that designation, and be in place before the August deadline to hopefully, if that was something they were interested in doing, achieve the grant obligations or meet the grant obligations of their application. I went extremely quick, and I am aware. If there is any questions that you have about the effort that we're going to help the city of Piqua become a certified local government, I'm happy to answer them.
If there are other pieces of ground that would like to be included in this process, should we call you? What's the process?
Yeah, I think now is the time to have that conversation. Again, we, from a staff level and conversations that my staff has had, we looked at a couple pieces of land. That's kind of what that map was quickly showing. But now would be the time to expand the downtown historic district. We cannot, in this process, expand the Caldwell Historic District because that is a boundary that is designated on the National Register of Historic Places. There is a different process for that. But if there is someone that's interested in being added to the downtown historic district and doesn't want the name, then they certainly can, there's no reason that we couldn't have that conversation and make sure that they're
But
incorporated.
if there's a piece of property outside these 2 districts, may we also call you and talk about that?
Yeah, it likely would need to be contiguous, so it couldn't just be a spot that's like a 1 here or there. It would need to be a contiguous district, so it would need to be within the boundaries. So if there's one house that's 3 over, we probably would have to take all 3 as, the boundary would just be extended. But we certainly can have those conversations if people are interested.
Have you talked with the Caldwell Historic District representative?
I invited Don to the last meeting, but there was a storm that did not allow us to have that. So I don't believe he can make it to this meeting. But yes, our intention is, and I want to be clear, there is no impact to the Caldwell Historic District. There's nothing that is changing to them. This is really something that hopefully will give them another tool in their tool belt if those people determine that they have an interest in redeveloping their house or trying to get a grant, something that will help them make those decisions easier. Hopefully this will be another tool that they can use.
And this, excuse me, also opens up the possibility for historic tax credits for redevelopment of existing buildings and structures in our downtown, correct?
Correct. And that is the second piece of the grant opportunity is by not having to designate yourself as the National Register of Historic Places, you're saving yourself 2 years or 18 months of a designated process. By us being able to locally landmark them, we can help people move forward with the redevelopment opportunities that they have or that they'd like to take part in without waiting 3 years for that process to happen.
Just off the top of your head, are there any specific, or how many buildings, sites, ballpark that would greatly benefit from having this extra tool in their toolbox?
I mean, I can tell you that I would anticipate we would have 2 or 3 property owners this August that would be very interested in doing that. I believe that the city also owns properties that would benefit from that potentially, where we could transfer that property to someone to be able to do that. Again, any historic building that exists in our downtown would benefit if the developer or if the owner of that building has an interest in going through this process. I will admit wholeheartedly, it's a process. It's a state process. It is, but there is funding available, which allows, in an economy that we have today, it allows another tool for someone to be able to try to make a financial decision to redevelop or reinvest in a historic building, which we have a lot of beautiful ones. So I couldn't tell you that there's 2 or that there's 4. I would anticipate we would have between 2 and 5 probably in the first year. And then afterwards, it would depend on who purchases what building or who's interested in developing or redeveloping what.
Thank you.
So, real quick here, the commission that we're putting together, this is probably a question for the mayor as well. Is this one of the commissions and/or boards where we would have a member of this commission be represented there or not?
I don't have an
Is that how you
answer for
set it
that.
up?
That would be.
I wouldn't be
It
opposed.
specifically states in your language that no member of.
That is
the-
how we framed it. There's no obligation from SHPO for that language to
Would you
be
like?
there, but
I
that is
would love
what
it.
we have
I
proposed.
love the architecture of this
Yeah.
city.
Then we might want to change that to include
A
member-
non-voting
a
position.
ex
Yeah.
officio, yes.
And I'm really glad you guys included that one area just east of the Caldwell District, because the building where Winans is classic mid-20th century architecture because it used to be the newspaper building.
Right. Well, and the interesting part is this year they are really focusing on not what they are calling old buildings, but not as old buildings. So
Right.
something
Not as
built in
old.
the 1900s is now, a focus because there are beautiful buildings that were built in the 1900s that still need investment and effort to keep instead of just, replacing them. So.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from commission? We will move on. Thank you for your
very much.
presentation. Next is the consent agenda.
Consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the March 19th, 2024 regular city commission meeting and the March 28th, 2024 special commission meeting. Resolution 59-24, resolution appointing a member to the diversity committee. Resolution 60-24, a resolution appointing a member to the diversity committee. Resolution 61-24, a resolution appointing a member to the diversity committee. Resolution R62-24, a resolution appointing a member to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission.
Can you list the names of the people who are appointed to those committees?
Sure. These are all renewals. Paul Perkins on the Community Diversity Committee, James Oda on the Community Diversity Committee, Lisa Baker on the Community Diversity Committee, and Commissioner Jim Vetter is being appointed as a delegate to the 2024 Board of Directors of the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission.
Any questions from commission about the consent agenda?
Just a quick thank you to Commissioner Vetter for picking that up, because I can't.
Yeah.
You're working, that's
You're
right.
welcome. You're welcome.
Any comments from citizens on the consent agenda? I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Old business then. Ordinance number O-2-24, second reading.
An ordinance to make appropriations for the city of Piqua, Ohio for the year 2024.
Jerry O'Brien, the City Finance Director. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This ordinance is to adjust the appropriations and certain line items of the budget. And this is the second reading, and there have not been any changes since the first reading.
Any questions from commissioners? Any questions from citizens? Then this will serve as a second reading, and we will move on to new business. Next is resolution number R-63-24.
A resolution authorizing a purchase of order to Knapheide Truck Equipment Center for the purchase of a utility service truck with service body and air compressor system for the underground utilities department. And I'm sorry if I messed up that name.
You're all right.
It's probably Knapheide.
Thank you. Commission, these next two resolutions are together. The one is for the first one is for the utility, so this is for the service truck. This is for the components that go on the cab and chassis, which will be your second resolution. This equipment is replacing W8, which has been in our fleet for 10 years, pushing 100,000 miles. This vehicle is used every day, mainly for meter setting, doing oops tickets, just various service truck for various jobs around town. So these two go together, and combined, they're over the $75,000 threshold. The truck, the service body came in at about $37,000. It was about $4,000 cheaper than the other bid we got. And then I'll go into the second resolution. So then the service body truck, or then the cab and chassis, that was about $52,000, and the bid after that was $70,000. So we took the two lowest components of the one for the cab and chassis, the one for the service body, putting them together into these two resolutions to outfit this vehicle. This will be split 50-50 between the water and sewer funds. There is a picture of what it should look like in there. Do you have any questions?
How much is the total expenditure with the two added together?
I think it's 37 and 52, about 90, I believe.
And what are we doing with the old one?
We'll gov deal it once we get the new one. We have good luck with gov dealing our old vehicles, and you get $5,000-$10,000 back.
510, okay.
Was this presented to the utility board, and did they have an opinion on it?
Yeah, we had our first meeting of the year in, I think, middle of March, end of March, and yes, they were approving of it, yes.
Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from citizens? Crickets.
Motion to adopt resolution R-63-24.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. We'll move on to the next resolution, which is the second part of this.
A resolution authorizing a purchase order to Valley Ford Truck, Inc. for the purchase of a new utility service truck for the underground utilities department.
Yep, so this is the second component of that, which I talked about together in the first resolution.
Any questions from commissioners? Any questions from citizens? I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Next is resolution number R-65-24.
A resolution to authorize a replat along Nadine Drive with vacation of existing easements and dedication of new easements.
Kyle Hinkleman, Community Services Director. The resolution before you this evening for consideration, R-66 or 65-24, deals with a replat of the subdivision, or of a subdivision on Nadine Drive. This is 3 properties within the existing subdivision. What is being requested is then to split that into two. So our process requires Planning Commission review, which was recommended to the City Commission for approval of in-lots 8660, 8661, and 8662. It is an equal division between those two lots. What existed on the property was an existing house and a non-existing property. A new owner looked to purchase one of those lots, and between the two owners, they determined that the third lot was likely not to be buildable, and they were hoping to be able to replat that into those three into two lots to allow each of those properties to have a little more space and to build a bigger home on those lots. I believe the developer is here who can speak to any questions that you may have of him, but again, our Planning Commission recommended approval to City Commission at their March 12th, 2024 meeting in a unanimous decision.
Any questions from commissioners?
I would invite the developer to come
Yeah.
up and.
Rob, would you like to come up?
Evening, gentlemen. Thank you for your service. Yes, Rob Alexander, 1901 Navajo Trail, and this is a situation where we had a property, an individual who was coming in to build a new home. The property they wanted to build on was a little small for what they wanted, and there happened to be an open property adjacent, and so we were able to split it between them and an existing home, which allows us a little more space to work with. And because there are easements on our properties, whenever we abandon and reestablish, we have to go through planning and through commission, and that's why we're here tonight. We are excited that we are continuing to grow out there. We have 3 or 4 new homes ready to start in the next month, and we continue to see a lot of people. Again, about 70% of the people who are building in Indian Ridge are from outside of Piqua, so that brings growth into our community. So we're excited to be a part of that. At this point, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
You said it was pulling from a neighboring property. Is there any concern from the neighbors in that area about this, or is there any opposition to it?
No, it's not uncommon. We've done this probably a dozen times or more in the 60-some homes we've built, where we have homes where they want to buy 2 lots that are adjacent to each other, center on those 2 lots, just because they want a little more real estate beside them. Or in a case where the lot, is 80 feet wide and their home with the setbacks or with the setbacks is just too wide for what they want to build. So we've done this probably a dozen or more times in the past.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks.
Any questions from citizens about this resolution? I'll accept
Mayor, I'll motion to adopt resolution R-65-24.
Second?
Look at that.
all right. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Last on the agenda is resolution number R-66-24.
A resolution establishing a Piqua City Commission 2024 calendar of meetings.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. I'll have this one tonight. So as we've done traditionally the last few years, we've established a calendar of meeting times for the commission so that once it's adopted, it can be populated in the city calendar so people can make arrangements to attend the meetings. And so we have before you the agreed meeting schedule that you had agreed to.
The big change I see is the August 6th one. We canceled it in lieu of National Night Out so that the commissioners could go to all the various National Night Out celebrations throughout the community.
I believe I will be on vacation during the 20th, August 20th. We can adjust that for my benefit as we get closer to it.
Let us know. Any other comments? I'll accept any comments from the citizens. You've seen it. I'll accept the motion.
I motion to adopt resolution R-66-24.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now on to our city manager's report.
Good evening, Commissioners, and so I have two items. One is just a reminder that the 2024 Riverway Summit's going to be held at the Fort Piqua Plaza on April 19th. It begins at 8 a.m. and it goes till 3 p.m. It's an outstanding event, and you can get the tickets online at the Great Miami Riverway. And lastly, just a reminder too that the Planning Commission meeting had been moved to tomorrow, the 9th at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
Do we have any information on the fire training commission meeting location?
Yes, thank you for reminding me on that one. So we're updating the website also to move the location of the fire training commission or committee from the municipal government complex over to Fort Piqua Plaza. It'll be held in the tour room. When you get off the elevator, you turn right and walk straight forward, and it'll be that first room.
Okay. Any other questions for city manager? Nope. We will go with commissioners' comments. We will start with Commissioner Simmons.
Hey, everybody. First of all, Mr. City Manager and Mr. Mayor, thank you for canceling the meeting last week.
Hey, you said something to me and I hopped on the line, so thank you.
When I started seeing it coming
Yep.
from about 3 different directions about how bad it was going to be, it was time for me to go,
Yep.
it's time.
Nope, appreciate you.
Yeah, anyway, big shout out to my amateur radio peeps. We have had, I think in the last month and a half, we've had 2 major weather events. And some of these guys, they're all volunteers. And they go out and some of them wind up putting themselves in harm's way so that we can keep track of storms and let the authorities know when things are going on and report things as they happen.
Some of them want to be storm chasers now.
Yeah, some of them do, Mr. Adam. But also, yesterday, there was a bunch of them that came out all over Miami County for the eclipse. And we have folks out there. And it's not only a privilege to be part of that community, but it is a lot of fun, even when I can't participate directly, to witness it over the airwaves. So.
Well, thank you for doing that. I mean, you're getting a lot of people involved, and if you'll have another training session, we can get more.
I'll talk to the powers that be.
All right.
I need testers.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Next, we'll hop down and talk to Commissioner DeBras down here.
I just want to take a minute and thank the local businesses in the city for all of their efforts in organizing the events over the weekend with us being in the path of the eclipse. And I don't believe we quite had the influx of folks that we were expecting in the county, but also thank you to the chief for making sure that we were prepared for anything that may have come our way. And then the last thing that I'd like to say before I yield back is to also thank the chief, to thank your officers for their professionalism and the manner in which that they carry themselves and interacting with not just people who live in Piqua, but folks from outside the city of Piqua. And how they carry themselves with class and represent the city. So please thank your officers for doing that on a daily basis. We do appreciate what they do for us. Mayor, I'll yield back.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Vetter.
I have a couple things. Number one, I attended the CHIP program meeting. This is a meeting where once a year, the city reviews tax abatement kinds of issues for various businesses. And for anyone who thinks that Piqua is not attempting to help with those kind of things, I think they're exactly wrong. We have a list of them and the dollar amounts that are included for that. So, again, many of those projects are multi-year. I'm not really versed on all the details. Chris Smeezing handles that, but I did attend the meeting and found it helpful and a good reminder that we're doing some things for existing businesses. Just a reminder that we are in the process of responding to situations where people are not taking their trash carts off the street and or the right-of-way, and the street department, which is handling these kind of issues, are handing out door hangers as reminders about what needs to be done in what time frame. So that's an active, and my understanding is that the vast majority of people respond very positively to that, and are being cooperative with that process. So we'll be involved in that. I have attended both the Energy Board meeting and the Utility Board meeting. I continue to be very happy with the professionalism and the degree of work technically on issues with that. Kevin's here to hear the thanks tonight, or he was. He slipped out, but Ed does a great job with the Utility Board, and I see Stu here too. So he's on the Energy Board, and it's an open meeting. People should feel free to do that, but it's a place where I think we can take a lot of pride. Just a reminder that the Southview Neighborhood Association had their home buyers resource meeting, and it is not limited. The resources are not limited to people who live in the geographic confines of Piqua, and so it's an interesting project, and I think we need to encourage home buyers, and this is a way to do it. Interested in expanding our spay and neuter program for cats. We're looking for people who may have interest in being an active participant in that. I understand that there is some flexibility in our budget to include that. And so if people have interest in that, I would encourage them to either contact me or to contact city manager, and we can talk about some details that we have to work out on that. Let's see. The next meeting for the Hance Pavilion Committee will be Thursday night, April 18th, 7 o'clock at the YMCA Activities Center. And the focus, I think, of our attention on this occasion will be ADA compliance issues that we think the building will face. I'm aware that we are not having a very specific date for cleanup this year, but if you have an organization, church group, civic organization or whatever that wants to participate, you can choose a date and do that. Many of the parks are spoken for, but I think we still have things that need to happen there, so we'll do that. I have received a copy from Chief Adams of what I'm going to call the recreational fire ring event, and we do not have a city ordinance that responds directly to that, but we do have a state guidance, I think, on that. And so if people are interested in doing that, and I'm looking at Jim and Millie, it does not speak to hamburgers. So that was the first concern. And so, and the second thing I understand from the chief is that we're not having what I would call a significant issue with those, although there are ways to respond if we think we're having a problem with that. My understanding is that after receiving the most recent response from the Department of Natural Resources, we have scheduled a meeting for what I'm going to call the Hydraulic Committee. I know that's not the right name. Can you help me with the date? April 25, maybe?
Yes, it's April 25th, I believe.
And do we know the time and place?
It'll be posted, if not already, on the website.
Very good, thank you. I continue to tag team with the mayor and attending the Miami County Mayor, Vice Mayor's breakfast. It's interesting that we have similar concerns with other cities. Absolutely amazing. So, that's an interesting thing. And just the last comment, that now that we're hopefully moving consistently into spring, most of us are putting out trash bags with yard waste and those kinds of things, and we're hoping that people will use the appropriate receptacle for that and use the bag and put it out, follow the general directions for that, and allow the city employees to pick those things up. So with that, I will yield.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Holman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just real quick before I get into the rest of my stuff, I'll echo my fellow commissioner, Vice Mayor Vetters, discussion about, and reminder about the spay and neuter program. If you guys might remember, a few weeks ago, I informed you that I was helping with the abundance of feline friends that we have in Piqua by adopting one of those strays. And today, little Lily just got spayed and neutered, and it was very expensive to do that as a private individual versus her just being a stray. So, but yeah, I appreciate your constant focus on dealing with them humanely. Let's see here. So the eclipse, I hope everybody enjoyed it. It was a great view, and I will just say that I confess I looked at it without my glasses on, but it was gorgeous. My second point is to Chief Byron. I saw one of your officers in a YouTube video a few days ago. I just wanted to share with you how impressed I was in his ability to maintain his cool composure. It reflected very well, very favorably on him, his fellow officers, and you as their chief. And I had several calls and contacts from my constituents echoing that same sentiment. So thank you for doing such a great job in leading the Piqua Police Department. My third point's also for you, Chief Byron. I very much appreciate you getting back to me with the concerns that I had brought up at a previous meeting a few weeks ago. I had some questions about the way the police department was conducting firearm simulation training, and you provided me with a full, very comprehensive report of what you guys were doing, how you were doing it, and tested evidence of why it was safe. I very much appreciate you putting in that kind of effort. And all my concerns are assuaged, and to prove that to the community, I will not be adjusting my cycling route at all from going past the training facility because I'm confident that it's safe for me to do so.
I thought you were going to be tested and be shot with this ammunition.
I wasn't offered that.
Well, I've been shot with, it's not fun.
Maybe we'll do that on night out. Shoot your commissioner.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and my fourth point to the city manager, I just wanted a follow-up question about the Miami Conservancy District. There was a question about increased assessments, not just for homeowners, but about city-owned property as well. And so the question was, what is the Miami Conservancy District assessment? What are you estimating the city's got to pay for all the city-owned property that might be covered under that?
Yeah, so basically, we have 23 non-exempt parcels, and that total assessment for maintenance assessment is $4,614, and total capital assessment of $1,659.
Thank you very much. And Mayor, that is all I have for tonight on my comments. Thank you.
All right. For my comments, I'd like to really thank the downtown businesses and the alien craze that went on downtown. I drove through there. It was delightful to see some people, and there's lots of people walking throughout and visiting the various businesses. And so thank you for putting that on and being the host for that. The eclipse, it was a family deal at my house. Everybody came and we used our glasses. So I don't know. But it was once in a lifetime. It will be back, I guess, 20-some years, but it'll only be partial in this area. But 2099 is the next time it will be around, and I hope I'm taking a nap in the ground somewhere at that time.
See, I've got it burned into my retinas, so I'll have it for a while.
I believe that. Again, I wanted to mention the first fire training committee meeting is at the plaza, if anybody'd like to attend. Is that 5 o'clock?
Yes, it's 5 p.m.
5 p.m. So it's an organizational meeting, just so everybody knew where it was at. The mayor's meeting is every Wednesday from 4 to 6 up here. It could be in this chamber if we move it when there's more than a few people. So otherwise, that's in the office that's afforded to us. And someone did mention something about grass clippings. Be conscious that people are starting to cut their grass. Please bag that. Don't put it on the street. As a motorcycle rider, I would not like to slide on those. And we want to watch out for all motorcycle riders. And just be conscious. And with that said, now's the time for public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the commission on agenda items. Comments are requested to be limited to 5 minutes. The rules of conduct for the public comment are posted and should be on the table in the back somewhere, but please follow those rules. Oh, state your name and address, please.
I am Valerie Mullick, and I live on Piqua Clayton Road.
ma'am.
I also run a nonprofit here in Piqua, Operation Veteran and Caregiver Support. We are located at the Plaza, Riverside Place Plaza, out by the mall. Couple of things. One, I applaud the city downtown, as well as the Piqua Center, for the eclipse yesterday. It was great. Actually, the whole weekend. It was delightful to be downtown, to see the activity down there on Sunday. I was like, this is amazing. This historic preservation program will definitely benefit this community. So I really, really emphasize the city's got to get on board with that ASAP.
Yes,
Get
ma'am.
this state to get on ASAP.
Yes, ma'am.
For a host of reasons, but I noticed sitting at a light, I was just telling Melody this, I was looking at the facial part of one of the buildings downtown on Main Street, as I was also admiring the aliens that were visiting, and noticed that the building is definitely in very significant need of repair. And in looking at that, I realized that's a lot of money, and it's in the middle of a block with building on either side of it. So this historic preservation program could really benefit those businesses downtown. So I really would encourage you guys to do that. I've asked about ADA compliance here in the city of Piqua in regards to handicap accessible parking and accessibility at our parks. And I know that there is a diagram that has now come about. I've met with Chad briefly on that. Where are we at in getting these parking spaces, guys? We're coming up on summer. We have a lot of people that already visited our town this weekend. We didn't have accessible parking. And we're going to continue to face those challenges as we get ready to open Lock 9. We're going to face those challenges as we get into the summer months and people are visiting our town.
Is
So-
the study done?
The study's not quite complete yet, but we are going to be programming some of the updates that they've identified in terms of what pavement markings that we need to go ahead and update.
Okay. Also, Pitts and Barger Park has a picnic shelter that has zero accessibility to it. That means no sidewalk, no accessibility to it. How soon can that be fixed so that those people that want to use that picnic shelter, because it's the only picnic shelter there, are able to use it that have limited ability to walk in grass?
I'd have to take a look at the ADA transition plan, and it's spelled out what is going to be done in what sequence of order. I don't have that information with me right now, though.
Okay, so how soon can I get a copy of that? Because I'll be honest with you, city manager and mayor, I have been asking about this for a year now, and we are no further along than we were a year ago. And I am concerned about that, as I not only take care of a disabled veteran myself, and I struggle myself with some mobility issues currently, I also work with a lot of people who have mobility issues, and we're not compliant. And we need to move faster to get the compliance.
That's correct. And we have a new planner on board, and that took some time to spin them up. I apologize, it's taken a year, but with a changeover in staff, we have now also new engineering technician that's going to be the ADA coordinator, so you'll be meeting him as well.
I would really like to work with them.
Yep.
Because there are a lot of things that I have seen, and there are a lot of things that need to be improved, and there are a lot of things that are being missed from what I can see already.
If you wouldn't mind, just email me and I'll connect you with the ADA transition plan so you can read it for yourself.
I'll do that again. All right, thank you. As a city resident, I really don't live in the city, I live in the township, but I'm born and raised to this town, this is my town. I would encourage the city of Piqua to consider how they can get involved in the Miami County Fair this year. There's a disconnect between the Miami County Agricultural Society and the Miami County Fair and our cities, towns, villages inside of Miami County. You guys have a great opportunity to put Piqua on a map and shine like the pretty penny that I
30
know this
seconds.
community is. So I would encourage you to do that. And then for the other thing I wanted to say, Operation Veteran and Caregiver Support is continuing to grow. We are very involved with the Indian Lake tornado victims currently, and we would encourage people to consider giving through Thrivent Financial Ministries. There is a link on our website. People are contributing money. 100% of those funds are going to help those veteran families that have been referred to us recover from the tornadoes up in Indian Lake.
All right.
Thank you.
Your time is up. I appreciate it. And along that line, I would like to, I got a letter from the city of Salina after they had their tornado. We sent some help up from our departments, and they sent a letter thanking us for that. So that will be placed in the mayor's office, and our electric department did a great job, so.
And then, Mayor, I'd also like to just say thank you to Valerie. She's always a really tough warrior for that ADA compliance. I know that the existing compliance isn't happening at the speed that you want it to happen at, and we'll do what we can to get that moving along. But I can tell you that new properties that were being designed and considered up at the where the Red Roof Inn is, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of questions about, is there going to be accessible parking there? Are the sidewalks going to be accessible? How is that all going to work? And so your input is being considered for future projects. So I just want you to know that, and I'm really thankful for all the work that you do.
Yes, ma'am.
Melanie Walker, 526 North Wayne Street.
Thank you.
And first of all, the whole thing about the certification and that to help the historical is amazing to me. We have a house in the district and we have 2 businesses downtown. And I can just tell you right now that one of our businesses, you know, the buildings are all go side by side. We just got a bid because the building, the brick is pulling apart. The one building's pulling apart to the tune of $65,000 to fix the brick. And, you know, the building, I paid $75,000 for it. So we're talking about a huge, major expense going on, which we will do it because we are committed to downtown, but that would be an amazing help in the future. My other thing is the project with the new trees, that we had the new trees put in. This weekend, we had all the people with, and you have the orange cones on each side of the trees. Now, I don't know if y'all can tell me, but I saw down in front of Lucky's today when I drove through down that direction that they were out there breaking concrete up. So I don't know if that's part of the process to fix the trees.
Yep, so phase 2 is underway. That's sidewalk repairs, brick repairs, refurbishing the tree grates. So they were out there this morning, was their first day.
Okay, will it be done by Taste of the Arts in May?
I don't have the construction schedule, but I can find out for you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Let's see, my other thing was the police. I so appreciate everything that they do, and their nature that they do it in. It was nice over the weekend when we had stuff going on downtown that the police cars were up and down through the weekend. There were 2 police officers. They waved all the time. I think that was the aliens that were causing that. Everyone had to wave to them.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate the police department, totally. And then my last thing, of course you know that I had to talk about the aliens.
Love the aliens.
Yeah. So the downtown businesses were the ones that put this together. And I think we had 7 aliens walking around, you know, waving to people, taking pictures and that. We had selfie stations. I did go, Saturday we had a lot of traffic downtown. It was nice to see people walking around. Of course, I want to know where they came from, how'd they find out about it, because I want to know what's happening. Well, of course, they heard about it on Facebook, which was nice. But I would say on Saturday or on Sunday, 80% of the people were Piqua people down there walking around. And they had their kids down there. They were playing cornhole. They were getting selfie pictures. They were getting pictures with the aliens. I went around and talked with the businesses. They were over the top. It was great. They all had traffic. They had sales on Sunday. They loved it. So, I mean, we had several people say, can you do this more often? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe twice a year, but not every month. Someone goes, we need to bring people downtown every month. And I'm like, no, it's not going to happen because it was a lot of work and that. But it was a big hit. We have had our aliens be invited to one of the night out events. They were just, they said it was amazing, which they were really good.
Well, thank
So,
you for
thank
doing
you.
that.
We appreciate it. Thank you all for all you do, too.
Well, appreciate you. Thank you.
Hello, Kim Heisler from 1802 West Parkway Drive.
Thank you.
This has to do with the Firefighting Training Center, JUA and the MOU. I know, Tom, you were talking about changing the wording in the information to specifically, but
Could you talk a little closer to the mic? I'm having some trouble hearing you.
anyways, I'd like for you guys to spell out specifically to exclude any and all alternative energy training and exclude all training with EVs and lithium ion from the amended JUA and
Is that in
MOU.
the ordinance?
Yeah, I think that might be covered by the one I'm working on.
Okay, even if it becomes a standard course, just want to make sure just that it's taken out of there.
Yeah, and I would, I know that we haven't gotten it out yet, and I apologize for that, but when we do, I really definitely am looking forward to your input after you've read through it and seeing if that covers it and seeing if you can find any other gaps in it that maybe we didn't consider.
Okay, and actually, if that's taken out, it almost seems like we could just terminate the contract with BGSU and just
So
take on the money ourselves as the city instead of hiring somebody else to do it.
can I respond to that?
Yeah,
So the remaining part of the BGSU agreement is to train our firefighters. So firefighters have to be trained by an accredited institution, and Bowling Green has one of the best accredited institutions in the state. And so without them, we would have to find some other Ohio State accredited institution. And, not that we couldn't do that, but Bowling Green's already lined up, ready to go. We're familiar with their process. They're highly regarded throughout the state. And their fire training school or program is separate from their research and development team that was part of the issue that we had before.
Okay, I just want to make sure you guys keep an eye on that because
I
it could
agree.
sneak in there and
I agree.
we don't want that at all, so thank you guys.
Kim, thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff Grimes, 9300 State Route 66. Here I am again. No more burning anything ever at 9300 State Route 66. So, I spoke on this last time. They say they're going to be burning pallets out there. So, have anybody done any research on pallets? Pallets are either heat treated or they're treated with methyl bromide. And methyl bromide is a toxic pesticide that has been linked to human health problems and ozone layer depletion. So will you ride your bike out there
Absolutely.
when they're burning pallets?
As long as it is not closed. As long as the trail's not closed, I will ride my bike there.
So you're okay with pesticides that are treated being burnt?
To be quite frank with you, I don't believe you,
Really?
really.
Okay, so I appreciate that. So maybe you should do some research on pallets like I have. Human exposure can cause central nervous, respiratory failures, and can cause harm to lungs, eyes, skin. Methyl bromide is a class 1 ozone depleting substance. And the Montreal Protocol, that's where I got that from. So do you believe them?
I don't know, I'd have to look into it.
So once again, BGSU should lose its fire school accreditation for ever burning anything next to our water. The contract should be voided. Thanks for not believing me. I really appreciate that. So, wow. Let's get back to the 9300 State Route 66. Nobody's ever answered any of the questions that I had. Who approved paying the utility bills out there? Never had a breakdown on how much we paid. Will the citizens ever get paid back for that? Do you believe me on that one?
I believe that's a question that will be investigated by the Fire Training Investigation Commission.
So maybe they can investigate what skids are treated with also. Maybe you'll believe them.
Potentially could.
Okay. So will the citizens ever be compensated for the water testing that was necessary because of the batteries being burnt? I do believe that was like $15,000. What about the soil testing? I think that was about $17,000. There was also all kinds of stuff that the OEPA and RAPCA said that they should be done out there. The containment vessels, there was no permit, and they were supposed to fill them with clean fill dirt, but they didn't do that. They used the fill dirt that was out there. Now, if I was going to go put something in my property and dig a big hole, and I didn't get a permit, I don't think that I'd be allowed to leave those things there. Pretty soon that you guys would make me pull those out. So those containment things should be pulled out. Pay Bowling Green back their money and stop this nonsense so close to our water and our dog park and our bike path and our river and the Johnson Farm and the cemetery and Hampshires. I don't understand why you guys just won't stop this. Oh, wow. So then we've had a lot of executive meetings and for pending litigation. And I would also like to know how much extra we are paying attorneys to...
30 seconds.
Can I get some more time?
No.
Imagine that. Was any grant money ever available to help the Jason Tillman family, but was never used? Nobody's answered me that question either. No answer on the improvements to 9300 State Route 66 that was valued at $75,000, and now it's valued at $9 million. No questions ever answered. When we have this
Question on the 9300 State Route 66 valuation.
Okay.
I went down to the auditor's office and asked them about it. They said that when they were evaluating it, we were building the other plant. They assumed that it was part of the new plant. I think they thought it was part of the new plant too. They agreed that the valuation is off on that. But that valuation also includes 72 acres of land too. Some of it, most of it's water, and I don't know how you value water, but they are going to look at reevaluating the value on that property.
When will they
Again,
do
we don't
that?
pay any taxes, so it's not really that significant of an issue one way or the other.
Right. When will they, did they say when they would do that?
Next time that they had next time they did the reassessments.
Do you know when the previous assessment was done?
I can pull it up.
Okay.
Hold on.
No. No. What question do you have, real quick? No.
You done?
If you want to go on, it'll take me a couple minutes to get this. If you want to do something else or have another person, I can come back
Yeah,
to
another
it.
person. Anybody else wants to come?
Eva Silvers, 319 3rd. Hi. Yeah, as you guys know, I was all in the battery burn from the get, and I took a step back. First off, Chief Byron, thank you to Officer Rodriguez. Nobody should go to work and have to deal with that just because we can. I am avid gun owner, First Amendment person, but there's also common courtesy and a way to present yourself and walk in life without being vile. As far as the battery burns, I've sat quietly and I've read a lot. I guess my problem became when we have valid testing results that we're not going to believe because they're attached to the EPA, which anybody with any type of hazmat background or knowledge would know only certain entities can test, and those tests be acceptable or accredited. I have a huge problem at this point. I'm sure I'm going to be the next toxic Piqua topic, but my problem is this. I keep hearing and seeing people come to my community that are doing harm and more harm to my community than good. We say we want answers. Okay, we've paid for independent water and soil treatments, and they've been disputed. Said the company was paid off. That's ludicrous. No company, no multi-million-dollar company is going to risk its head for little old Piqua. So that's that. They say that the water's toxic. Can't wash in it, can't bathe it, can't drink it. But I find it ironic that the same claims that are made are selling toxic t-shirts as they wash the plates and serve off the water that they claim is toxic. It's the hypocrisy for me. We can go back 20 videos. I'm always saying it's the hypocrisy for me. Once I got to a point where with any type of hazmat, you have to sit back and have some know-how and know the full story. I have a problem with the fire training board because the city's going to give them their information, but I hear a collective group of citizens claim that it's not going to be viable. Then share your information. Let's put all the information together, access it all. Personally, I don't see that happening because then indefinitively, if they have the city's information and they have all of the other information collected, there's no plausible room for denying anything, right? Just like we wouldn't serve water in a restaurant or cook on the dishes or wash the dishes if we couldn't bathe in it. I love this community, but I have been fighting for years. I've been doing community cleanups. We have over 100 and some odd volunteers every single year that come out. Laura Kaiser, that's a shout out to her. She's a girl that's helping. She got a hold of me. She wants to do a bike path cleanup. So it is catching on. We have a great community. And I'm saddened to see that we had a problem that arose, and instead of us handling it as adults and sitting down rationally, it's become this big conspiracy theory. You know, everybody's got something to hide. But when you look at the reality of what it really is, I call bull. I just flat call bull, because you can't say that you're just so in fear unless you don't care about people to continue making money, right? Because it's got to be one or the other. Now, I'm normally a really nice person, but I'm getting really tired of watching my community be dragged through the mud. You know, we're growing, there are answers, there are court litigations, but if you want to handle things in court, handle them in court. Don't take this whole entire community and drag it through the mud, because that's not what any of this was about. That's not what any of this is going to stop and or start. It's not going to help. And if we cannot accept the realities, there's no point in you even getting an answer, because the truth is you're going to believe what you want to believe anyway. And that's all I got.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, I have to answer your question. The last valuation was well, there was a valuation in 2021, 2019, 2017. 2017 is when it increased substantially, and that's when the new water plant went online. There are some parts of that property that are used with the new water plant, from talking to Kevin. So he doesn't believe that the value is right, neither do I, but it also encompasses 72 acres of land, water land, so.
Maybe somebody screwed up the Excel sheet a little bit and multiplied a little too much, perhaps.
And that's why they're looking into
Honestly,
it.
I don't know. I mean, they have appraisers go out, they appraise the properties. They may have not known that this was no longer online.
Okay.
And I don't know how I'm not an appraiser, so I don't know how you appraise a lake that's 72 acres of land. So that's substantial acreage there too.
If you happen to get any updates from the auditor, if they're going to go through and review it, can you just keep the commission appraised of any activity on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? I will
Move for adjournment.
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
We did get it. Wow. Wow. That was. Did you like manifest that? Or?
Jimmy second.
I moved, and I think Thomas seconded.
They told me. Hey,
Okay.
lady said Frank stopped in here yesterday. I seen him.
About the trash vans? Yeah.
Well, I went to community
Again, if there's
veterinary
an
clinic,
exception
which